Police and the Inspector General of Police have now vowed to resist any unlawful change of government amid the End Bad Governance protests rocking the nation. Take a listen to what they said when they gathered today in Abuja.
None of us here is happy to hear any Nigerians injured for whatever reason. It's our duty to protect Nigerians. The only people we're after are those ones that don't mean us well, the enemies of the state. And anyone who makes himself an enemy of the state then will be ready to face the law.
The Nigerian army stand assured in defense of our democracy, of our peace, of our harmony, and we are not going to shift ground on that.
We still have in few states, in Kano, Kaduna, Katsina and Bauchi state, group of people who started campaign, subversive campaign, waving flags of other countries and openly calling for military takeover of government. This is not a protest, but an offense of treason.
You heard them. They spoke today in reaction to some of the things that we saw. Today, Mr. Femi Falana, senior lawyer, said there is no place to the threat to our democracy. Yesterday, he said that we need to focus on those monies being spent or being released at the federal level to this federating unit, especially to alleviate the poverty in the land. Let's speak to him now. He joins us live from Ikeja in Lagos. Thank you so much, Mr. Falana, for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Sure.
Yeah. Let me get, just briefly, I'd like to get your assessment because it does look like things escalated quickly and badly in the second or third day of the protest, considering how we were now talking about moving from the conversation on the agitations, the demands of the protesters, now to the issues of mutiny, issues of treason, issues of subversion of our democracy. Did you ever envisage that things are going to go in this direction? And now we are even now having to discuss how there could be some kind of international dimension to a possible subversion of the instituted authority in the nation.
Well, I never thought in my wildest imagination that what started as a peaceful protest will snowball into a campaign by some elements for an unconstitutional change of government. Whichever way you look at it, it is totally unacceptable because for almost 3 decades, Nigerians went through a horrendous experience to chase the military out of power in Nigeria. We were also involved, some of us were also involved in the struggle for the democratization, as it were, of a number of African countries. We were involved in the struggle against apartheid, in the struggle against colonialism in the Southern African region. And currently, I'm personally involved in the campaign against the colonization of Western Sahara by Morocco. So to that extent, we cannot fold our arms and allow undemocratic forces to undermine the democratic process. Yes, we are bound to have peaceful protest. We are bound to disagree with those who are in power. We are bound to condemn the denial of the dividends of democracy to our people. But peaceful protest should not be allowed to degenerate to a situation whereby forces of repression would take advantage to begin to demand for an unconstitutional change of government or campaigning for military rule in one form or the other. But again, I can understand what is going on. For me, it's born out of the tragedy of the not teaching history in our schools by government. We've had uninterrupted civil rule for 25 years. So you can imagine that those who are 40 years now were probably 15 when the military was forced out of power. So for those who are under 40 in Nigeria, a majority are, they have not been told, they have not been taught in any school what Nigerians went through under all manners of military dictators. Ditto for the Civil War, because the history of the Civil War has not been taught in our schools. Many young people are calling for a war in many parts of the country. So I think a lot of lessons should be drawn from this experience. Again, last year, after the elections, there were people who openly called for a military coup in Abuja. Since nothing happened to them, others now feel that it's a normal call. Once there is a disagreement, either with the government of the day or with other forces in the country. But we must not allow enemies of democracy to derail the democratic process. But it's also a challenge to those who are in power at the federal, state, and local governments to take this as a wake-up call that for Nigerians, it can never be the same again, by seriously addressing the crisis of poverty, of injustice, illegal arrest and detention without trial. Because when you listen to some of the demands, you will discover that a lot of these issues, a lot of the problems could have been resolved by the government. And when I talk of the government, I do not mean the federal government alone. And that is why I have demanded, and my organization has demanded, that we take the issue of accountability very seriously at all levels of government in Nigeria. And for the elite, our job is cut out for us by this experience. Never again are we going to allow children, 18.5 million children, never again should we allow them out of school, because that is the figure by UNICEF. And over 60% of that figure can be located in the north. So there are young people, there are children who are permanently on the street. So when there is any little gathering of people, any form of gathering of people, they are bound to join. And when it is a protest for young people and for others who are hungry, who have not eaten for days, they think it's an opportunity to join the looting culture in the country. And when I talk of looting culture, I'm talking of looting, grand looting by members of the ruling class, those who are facing trial for looting the treasury to the tune of 109 billion or Somebody is, a man who is on the run, who is being charged by the EFCC for looting a small state to the tune of 80 billion naira. So when people read about this, young people read about this, they are also instigated to want to take advantage of a protest to either loot warehouses and the rest of them. Of course, that is not justifying, looting by any group of people. But the language must now change. And I've been discussing with my colleagues. The bourgeois language of the law must change. When you are talking of looting, it must not apply to only those who are helping themselves. When you have a protest, we must, in fact, now go all out to the few people, an infinitesimal minority of politicians looting the treasury, to the extent that you have your people on the street. Your people cannot have 1 meal a day, to the extent that our roads are bad, to the extent that people are dying on the roads. So I believe that we must look at this crisis in all ramifications, not only from the point of view of law and order. The social implications of the crisis on ground must be examined. Again, as I said, we are not going to have solutions to our problems by embracing military rule, having regards to the colossal damage done to the progress of our country, the underdevelopment of our country that is traceable to all manners of military dictators. And that is why we must go all out and ensure that no group of Nigerians will find military rule attractive.
Mr. Falana, if I may jump in quickly. Now, you look at what is being said, and I'll come in a bit to the issues of the roles of the governors, the roles of the local government chairman, and the traditional institutions in governance, because all of these come together in the direction of the manner in which our people are being governed. So I look at it, the DSS is talking, the immigration is talking, and in the identification of those who are said to have been fingered in sponsoring the mayhem, the dimension of the Russian flags that we're saying. And we've been having this conversation in the last 2 days. And our role here as a media is to also point out what we see as a possible threat to our democracy and whatever that is strange in our land. We've seen the dimension in which the protests have gone in the northern region of the country, where we've seen more damage and more destruction on the street, to the point that people are so daring, they took over the armored vehicle of the police and were driving it around. We see people literally removing the bricks on the road and unleashing mayhem on infrastructure of private banks and, in fact, public property. I mean, what could have led to this? What do you figure could have brought this international dimension where we now see foreign flags being flown in our country?
Well, Seun, we're all products of our environment. The Russian flag being hosted